So I'm going to do a video on a really basic but profound question. Why doesn't life make sense to me? And maybe it's not life, maybe it's just some part of life. And you've been struggling and it's like this puzzle and you just can't solve it. So hopefully in this video I'll give you a couple pointers that may help you understand that there's no puzzle to be solved. So when it comes to making sense, or another phrase we use, common sense. So we're in an argument and debate and someone says, well, come on, it's just common sense. Well, in both cases, what they're referring to are raw sensory experiences, what the philosophers call qualia. This is the smell of coffee in the morning, the taste of green tea, or what it feels like to have the wind blowing on your face, or to be staring at a blue sky, or the coldness of water. These are all raw, basic sensory experiences. Now, the interesting thing about these experiences are they themselves cannot be understood. They're the end point of understanding. But what we do with metaphors, we take abstractions, what the thinking mind is so good at. It comes up with these abstract ideas like justice or fairness or concepts of who I am. And it takes all these abstractions and it grounds them in raw sensory experiences. And the problem is that the thinking mind has gotten so arrogant, it's gotten so autonomous that it's really kind of venturing off, believing that it doesn't need to be grounded anymore. In other words, what we're seeing is kind of a severing of the connection to these raw sensory experiences. And so the thinking mind thinks that it can just solve the puzzle on its own, that just more abstractions, more thinking will actually bring the illumination, the understanding. But that's not how understanding works. It's like saying, okay, why doesn't this thing make sense to me? Well, maybe if I just wrote a paragraph, this is what it would mean if this did make sense to me. And you can see that's really misguided. That's not how the system works. The raw sensory experiences themselves, that is the meaning. That's the only meaning. You're never going to get any deeper than that. Well, there's one level maybe, and that's what I'm going to talk about in a video I might do tomorrow, where we can take consciousness, and consciousness becomes the object of itself. A very interesting trick of consciousness referencing itself, and it's, we'll see. Maybe I'll do a simple guide. There is such a thing to self-referencing. But the next step from that are these raw sensory experiences. That's as close as we can get to just raw consciousness. And that's what understanding is the direct experience we have when we experience something for ourselves. So when someone says love is like a rose, and you see the rose and you see its beauty and you feel, the pain from a thorn, and that's as close as we can get to understanding what love is, because it maps the idea onto a raw sensory experience. So here's the trick. When it comes to like asking the question, like, why doesn't life make sense to me? It's the wrong question. Life doesn't make sense. Life is sense. It's the senses themselves that is the meaning. To sit and taste coffee in the morning, that's the meaning of our existence. To, go for a walk and smell at the fresh air and to feel the wind on your face, that is the purpose of life. The problem is the thinking mind comes along and it thinks that there's some other puzzle, something else that needs to be understood. There isn't. The raw sensory experiences themselves, the qualia of consciousness, that's it. That's why Alan Watts said that at least once a day we need to lose our mind and come to our senses. When you come to your senses, you're getting as deep as you can into the being and nature of our existence, beyond what the thinking mind believes are its problems that it thinks it needs to solve. So again, it's not that life doesn't make sense. Life is sense. And so hopefully that made some sense.